What's going on? This is Charlie from Xclusive Autoworks. Today we're wrapping the front end on this C8 Corvette. Right now we are just beginning the prep for this car, which includes removing this front license plate bracket and full wash. So right now Scotty is removing the front plate. We have our wash buckets here prepped and ready. We have a rinse and a wash bucket. So 2-bucket method. We're going to be giving the car a full wash. So full wash and dry. That way it'll be prepped for the wrap. After that we're going to throw this car on the lift and we'll get wrapping. Alright, so Scotty has taken off everything. He's got it labeled too, just to keep it organized. I'm going to go ahead and throw this in the front trunk for now, just to make sure we don't lose anything. We're also going to leave this a little bit open so we can deep clean there when we give it a wash. Same thing for the engine bay, which is actually back here because it's a Corvette. We're leaving this popped a little bit so we can wash underneath and the edges and stuff too. So Scotty's rinsing the whole car down right now. I also forgot to mention we have our wheel cleaning bucket right here. So we're going to use that as well. So yeah, first we're going to soak down the whole car. We're going to make sure we're going to knock away any loose dirt that's on the surface. And after that we're going to go to the buckets to use microfibers and the soap to give the car the full wash.
So unfortunately the audio cut out for these clips, the next few clips. But basically what's going on is Scotty is using the wheel cleaning bucket to clean the wheels. He's using this Picasso brush and a little bit of soap and water. He does this to loosen any of the dirt that's on the wheel. And wheels tend to be dirtier than the car, obviously because of brake dust and just dirt on the road. And here I am just doing the wash for the front end. So I'm using one of the microfibers and both buckets. The 2-bucket method is basically you have one bucket for rinsing off the dirty towel and the other bucket with fresh soap and water. So as you can see here, I'm just using the microfiber to get in every nook and cranny, washing all of the surfaces that I'm going to be wrapping, which included the hood, the bumper, both fenders, the headlights, and the mirrors. And while I take care of this, Scotty is continuing to do the other wheels, and we'll move on to the rest of the car. The next step is using a clay mitt and soap and water. We use this to clear the paint of any contaminants on the surface. So basically what the clay mitt does is if the paint is rough, it will smoothen out the top clear coat. And you want to do this for wrap specifically because if there's any imperfections in the paint, any raised marks, you'll see it in the film. The clay mitt removes that, so basically when the wrap is applied, the paint underneath will look pretty much flawless. It also helps the wrap adhere to the paint better, so this is just a necessary step that we take in order to make sure that the wrap comes out perfect. So now we're moving on to the actual wrapping of the hood. You can see Scotty is spraying the hood down with slip, and I used a squeegee there to remove any debris that could have gone on the surface between washing and moving the car in the lift. Now we're holding up the piece of film that we've pre-cut out already that fits the size of the hood. So Scotty is peeling the backing and spraying the film while I hold it up on the other side. Now we put the film on the car, and I'm just using my hands to gently work out any air bubbles and to conform the film to the hood. Now I first squeegee the middle, and that just helps anchor the film to the car, and I work outwards. So here I worked in the middle and went to the right, and then opposite from the middle to the left. And you want to do this because it will work all the water towards one edge. So here you can see the hood is fully laid. I've actually taken the film that is excess of the hood and squeegeed around on the other surrounding panels. So the fender, the front of the bumper, etc. So that pretty much makes tension. There's like a bridge of tension between the hood and the surrounding panel. So the film is perfectly tight, if that makes any sense. I do this because trimming afterwards is much easier while you let it dry for a little bit. The knife doesn't get hung up and the blade will glide very smoothly. So here's just a close-up of me trimming. The camera's a little out of focus, but what I'm doing is pretty much sticking the knife through the film, and I'm making sure the knife or the blade glides on the fender. So I'm leaving about a 1/8, 1/4 inch piece of film left over on the hood, and that's what's used to tuck to the underside. So that way you don't see an exposed seam. It's not cut flush with the hood, it's cut a little extra, and it's the exact amount around the whole hood. So by doing this, you get a cleaner look, and it will look very even underneath. And you could always, I'm using the fender to my advantage because the panel gap is actually very even. So that's why I tacked the film to the fender, and I'm using the knife now to glide along the fender side and leaving that little 1/4 inch of film left over. So here you can see what the film looks like after I've trimmed around the whole thing. So you can see this even perimeter of about, like I said, 1/4 inch of film around the whole hood. Right now I have the hood propped up just to let the film dry. And also when it's angled up like that, a lot of the water will just tend to roll down towards the corners, towards the windshield. So that is what allows the hood to dry out faster. And you want these edges to be dry or to get tacky because it makes it easier to push them down and get it installed cleanly. You can see on the corner right there, I left a little bit of extra film, kind of like a little flap. I have a certain technique for doing the corners. So my technique is I leave that little bit of extra film. I'll tuck the whole hood except for those corners, and then I will use a heat gun to kind of not melt, but superheat the film, and that allows it to be much more conformable. So I can get the corner down perfectly and you won't see a seam. And also here I'm using a tattoo bottle filled with water. It's just regular distilled water to rinse out the soap that was on the edge. And by doing that, it also speeds the drying process and the tack process, because that soap is what really doesn't allow the PPF edges to stick. So that's why you want to use tack or just straight up distilled water to help promote the adhesion on the film. So here's the completed hood. I have the whole edge tacked and put down. So there is no seam on any of the edges. They're still drying out, but for the most part, it's completely finished. You could also see the corner right there. I used my heat gun method to really get that corner all the way down. You can't even see where the film ends. So that's great. The same thing was done for the front. You can see on the C8 Corvette, it's got these sharp edges that kind of poke out towards the front for that aggressive look. You do have to do the same technique of really using the heat gun and making sure those corners stay down. And especially those corners being on the front, you really want to make sure those are down because dirt is naturally going to fly towards the front of the car as you're driving. So making sure those are really heated and down is a very important step. Now moving on to the fender, I'm just doing a quick alcohol and microfiber towel prep. So all it is, just rubbing alcohol on a microfiber and rubbing down all the edges and the whole panel. Here you can see me installing the wrap on the driver's side fender. This is pretty straightforward. I'm using a pre-cut piece, so I used the computer plotter and software to pre-cut out this piece of PPF. So it's already cut out to the shape of the fender. All I have to do is line it up and squeegee, obviously. So I start off in this top right corner and I move to the bottom of the fender, and after that I move to the front. So there's about 4 corners on this fender. Most fenders are like that as well, that you want to anchor down. Those are your anchor points. So you can see there's 2 in the front, 1 above the headlight and 1 right below the headlight, and then that top one right by the mirror and the absolute bottom of the fender. So once I have those down, I can just make sure the whole middle of the fender is lined up, and I will slip and squeegee it.
Alright, so it's unfortunate I had that microphone issue, but I realized and now I fixed it. So right now I'm going to be doing the other fender. It's going to be the same prep, obviously, like I did before, and yeah, I'll get right to it.
Next, we are moving on to the bumper, which is the last part of this video. This is also a pre-cut, so right now I'm actually lining up a hole that's cut out for the Corvette logo. That's right in the dead center of the bumper. So I'm lining that up, and then I'm working outwards towards the sides, very similar to the hood. This allows you to get a very even stretch on both sides. And this bumper actually does need a decent amount of stretch just because of the way the bumper is. So usually the more sharp the edges are and the more curvy a bumper is, the more you have to stretch it. And that can be said for any PPF panel. But anyway, all I did was really line up these certain anchor points. So there was a part right underneath the headlight, and then the end of the bumper. And after that, you can move to the little tiny bits, like the parts next to the grill, etc. And that just allows you to get it all lined up perfectly. It's a little tricky, but you get the hang of it.
Okay, and just like that, the front end is finished on this 2022 Corvette. I hope this video was helpful for anyone wanting to learn how to get into PPF and how to install it. I know a lot of it was time-lapse, and some of it was actually showing you how to wrap. You can see the edges. They're all post-heated already, tucked. I do still have to give this car a little wipe down, so any marks on the film, that's just dry water. But this is what the car looks like right now. Like I said, everything is post-heated. This whole grill area is wrapped too. I didn't get that on camera because that's very tedious and honestly took a while, but everything in there is wrapped, except for the literal grill, that the mesh, that's not wrapped. Mirrors, headlights. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you didn't, please leave a like and comment, subscribe. We greatly appreciate that. We are trying to expose ourselves to more social media. So yeah, with that said, again, I hope you enjoyed, and we'll catch you in the next one.